This is Long Way to the Top, and I'm your host, Shane Bryan. In the words of the immortal AC/DC, it is harder than it looks. These interviews will give you a glimpse into the lives of the artists that we've sung along with, danced and rocked out to. Some go deep into their past and others celebrate their recent releases. But all of them show that regardless of who you are, it's always a long way to the top. Dave Fishwick became the subject of a documentary in 2012 when he decided to stick the middle finger up at the banks and start his own bank in the little town of Burnley. And what other name could he call it other than the Bank of Dave? It was a David and Goliath story that nearly finished before it got started as the old established banks tried their hardest to stop it. But what makes this story even more interesting is that he got some much needed help from a little rock band known as Def Leppard. So Dave owes just as much to the rock gods as he does to the public that supported him in making the dream happen. It's been turned into a movie and a smash hit at Cannes. To tell us all about the Bank of Dave and the new movie, Dave Fishwick joins Long Way to the Top. Dave Fishwick, welcome to the show.
Hello. Fantastic. I'm in Australia. We live in the dream.
You live in the dream. You're living the dream where you are in Burnley, I've got to say. I mean, just right from the outset, Def Leppard. I mean, what? That's incredible.
Oh, they were awesome. They were absolutely awesome. I remember we was in the studio waiting for them to arrive in where the big stages were, and all the equipment were there, and all these people were there, and we're looking at the watch and thinking, they're about an hour. It must have been about an hour and a half before they got there. And I just thought, oh, I'm so excited. And it took forever for that an hour and a half to go. And then when they turned up, they're just rock heaven. You know, they are. And they're such lovely, lovely people as well. And I was chatting to the manager and we had his pictures took. And I just thought, wow, I was so starstruck.
You know, they all are. I mean, you speak to a lot of the especially the old rockers. They're just nice guys, you know. Forget about the new stars now, you know.
Legend.
Yeah.
Real legend.
Tell me, let's go back to the beginning, right? Why did you want to start a bank?
Well, if we go back a touch further, when I left school, absolutely useless at 16 years old. I had no qualifications whatsoever. Straight from school onto a building site as a builder's labourer. And I was paid $50 a week, up and down ladders, bucket of cement in each hand, proper graft. So I went from builder's labourer to building the first new high street bank for over 150 years. And then Hollywood turned up and made a movie about it.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of crux of the story. But the reason I got involved in the banks in the first place is late 2008, early 2009. My minibus customers were coming to me. You know, I built the largest supplier of minibus in the country. So we sell more minibus than anybody else. And I started off with one car, one van, one bus, and then built the largest supplier of buses. And then in 08, 09, my customers were coming to me for finance as they had done for many, many years. And I used to just fill the forms in, send it off to the banks, and the banks would pay me and the customer would get the bus. No problem. And then 2009, it just all stopped. The banks just stopped lending. And I'm thinking, have my customers done something wrong? Have they moved house? Have they got a CCJ, you know? But they'd done nothing wrong. The problem was at the front door of the High Street Bank. The banks just didn't want to lend to real people and businesses anymore. So I thought, well, if I believe these people, if I trust them, if I know they are, which I did, why don't I lend them the money? So I started lending them the money. They paid it me back. And I thought, this banking malarkey, it's not that difficult. So then I thought to myself, well, I can help other businesses as well. Maybe I could lend to other businesses and other people. So I thought, right, I'll start a community bank. I'll start the Bank of Dave. And off to London I went to meet all the bankers.
Yeah. Now, just going back a step, the first customer that you actually lent money to, and it was mentioned in the movie, you didn't even want that money back, right? It was like...
That's right. At first I did it because it was the right thing to do. And then there's all these regulatory things, and if you don't sign that, and you don't sign this, and you don't have this license. But the thing is, though, if you're doing things for the right reasons, then you know what? Inside, you're doing it for the right reason. But the regulators and the big banks, then and now, dislike me with a passion.
Yeah.
Because what we do is we help people and pensioners get the best rate of interest on the high street.
Yeah.
We then take that money and lend it to businesses who can't borrow from the high street bank through no fault of their own. And then the profit, we pay the overheads, and anything left over, we give to charity. So I'm a terrible person.
Yeah.
And that's what the big banks make me out to be. You know, they really, really dislike me.
That was the big thing. Like, look, when I was watching the movie, it was, you know, you were doing so much for charity as well, but the banks didn't like that because it's like, oh, you know, that there's no profit in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they tried to shut me down.
Yeah.
They tried to get rid of me. They tried to lock me up. They did some terrible, terrible things to me. And in the process, I was making a documentary after the Bank of Dave documentaries called The Lone Ranger, where I took the payday loans companies on. Yeah. And I got the biggest one shut down in Britain. And they prey on the poor and vulnerable. Terrible. They charge 5,000% APR to people who are really struggling in the first place. So I got one of them shut down. So then they teamed up with the banks to get rid of me. And then the banks realized they couldn't lock me up, and I'd not done anything wrong. They couldn't prove anything. So in the end, they had to let me run. So then they tried to buy me out. So then they come to see me to try and buy Bank of Dave off me. And I said, it's not for sale. And they said, everything's for sale, Dave. And I said, no, it's not. And they get a piece of paper and a pencil, and they slid it across the desk at me, and they said, write the number you want. And I said, there isn't a number. There never will be. It'll never be for sale. Because I want to show that if you put your mind to it, you can achieve anything.
Yeah.
And it'll never be for sale. I've never took a penny in 12 years, wages. All my staff get paid. I don't take a penny. I never will. Yeah. I've got other businesses that I've built up from scratch that give me all the money I need. So the Bank of Dave's there just to prove that if you put your mind to it, you can do absolutely anything.
Yeah, wow, that is incredible. I mean, just watching that and seeing how the process that you went through with it, it's really timely. And you've probably been asked this in Australia so many times, but with what's happening in Australia right now and the banks and the interest rates.
Yeah.
Are you going to start up a Bank of Dave in Australia? Because I think we need it, right?
Well, I mean, as soon as I got here, a few days ago when I arrived, the first thing I did is rather than just start reading the newspapers, I thought I'll start with real people. So what I did is I was in the hotel and I went downstairs to the bar and I just asked a few real people what's going on in Australia with the finance and with the banking sector, and is there any real problems here? And I got speaking to a group of ladies and gentlemen that were out on a bit of a night out, and they said, "Look, Dave, the biggest problem here, without a shadow of a doubt, is for them in particular was the mortgages. This lady, she pays $1,200 a month mortgage at the moment, and she got the mortgage just as COVID were coming out. Now her rate's going to come to an end in the next few months, and her mortgage is going to go over $2,500.
Yeah. She
said, I just can't afford it, Dave. You know, and that's happening all over. From what I can see, there's people are really, really worried about the loans are just not going to be able to afford them. But then we're still paying tens of millions in bonuses to these bankers. We're still paying millions and millions in bonuses to the energy giants, yet people are struggling being able to turn the gas and electric on. Surely somebody somewhere has to do something. You know, banking is the only thing in the world that when they go and make a fortune, a banker, he gets paid a fortune. When he loses money, the taxpayer bails him out and pays him anyway. You know, there's 4 banks just gone bust in the last few weeks, or, you know, in America. And as America starts to tighten up, then the world and global lending goes up, the rate goes up, and that's coming to Australia and New Zealand as well. So even though the Australian public have done nothing wrong, just like my customers have done nothing wrong with the minibuses, you know, they'll just stop lending, or they'll stop lending at anywhere near a sensible rate. So then real people suffer, and it's just wrong.
So there you go. If you're a business owner out there and you and you want to do something to help the Australian economy, start up a Bank of Sam or a Bank of Fred.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I would love to speak to one or two people out here. I mean, I've been reading about one or two miners that have done really well in Australia.
Yeah.
And if you could get one or two of those entrepreneur miners or people that are entrepreneurs out here that have done well over the years that want to put something back into their community, what you'd need is somebody with skin in the game. So they'd have to put some of their own money in and be prepared to lose it.
Yeah.
Because when you start taking money from the public, you cannot lose a penny of granny's money. I call it granny's money because in the back of my head, everybody that gives me money, I think of my grandmother. And I think I'd chop my left leg off than lose a penny of granny's money. Yeah. But the bankers don't think like that. So it needs to be somebody that's got some money, that's entrepreneurial, that really is willing to put that and commit that money into the community. Yeah. And community banks run by the community to benefit the community rather than the bonus culture. Then you need somebody that I call David H. My right-hand man's called David H. He's an old-fashioned bank manager. He's been in the job 55 years, and he really does look at people as people. So he manually underwrites, which means he looks at people's history. So if they've had a problem or a bump in the road, maybe they got divorced, maybe they've lost a job at some point, maybe they've not paid a credit card bill, but they've got over that now. And he can then work out how much they can afford to pay, and then he'll work out what they can afford to borrow. And there's be plenty of semi-retired or retired bank managers out there in Australia and in New Zealand that would, I'm sure, be interested in being involved in a project like this. Yeah. So once you've got them two people together, the other people then, it can be volunteers, it can be people in a church group or in a family group or, people, you could have doctors, lawyers, just people who hold trustworthy positions that could be there to cast their eye over this thing. And then it could be opened and community banks could spring out all over Australia and New Zealand. Because
it used to happen a long time ago. There used to be, especially in Australia, there used to be community banks. So there used to be, I don't know what they used to call them now, but, they seem to get swallowed up. They seem to get swallowed up by the big banks, and then suddenly they're gone.
On purpose. They got bought out, and because the banks want rid of them like they want rid of me. They'd just buy me and shut it. That's what they'd do. They have no interest whatsoever. In the UK, we've just got 4 or 5 big banks, and that's all they're interested in. And it's just based on greed. They give you nothing in interest. They then send that money abroad, make a fortune in credit default swaps and buying what I call financial weapons of mass destruction. Yeah. They short in stocks, which mean they're betting on companies going down, and that's how they make the money, which I think is immoral as well. Yeah. And if they do really well, they make a fortune. Yeah. I mean, just recently, I've had a school teacher, a headmistress of a school in Colne, just around the corner from Bank of Dave, rang me and said, "Dave, I desperately need help." She said, "The kids are coming to school hungry. The parents now are only giving them a couple of meals a day. They can't afford to give them breakfast. Kids are coming hungry to school." Yeah. And I said, "What do you need?" And she said, "I need some industrial toasting machines. I need some things for the kitchen, and I need some food." So I said, "Right, send me a link." And I got my team to buy everything she needed. I paid for a year's supply of food for the kids, for the school. And I said, 3 months before that runs out, ring me again and I'll buy another year's supply of food. So on one side, you've got kids coming to school starving. And on the other side, you've got bankers saying, unless you pay me 20, 30, 40 million dollars, I'm going to disappear back to America and you'll never see me again and it'll all go bad. And my advice would be get rid of them. Let's have back of them, get yourself gone. Because you cannot have two sections of the economy running like that. Society cannot have where kids are going to school hungry, children, and on the other side, one man or whatever man, woman, whatever, think they're worth 30 million. Yeah, that's just wrong. Yeah, I ain't got a problem with somebody earning big money, but if you're going to earn big money, that's fine. Yeah. But don't come to the taxpayer when it all goes horribly wrong. Yeah. No, I agree. So let's talk about the movie, right? It's been, was it Cannes? It's just been nominated for 7 National Film Awards, including Feature Film of the Year. Very, very exciting. It'll be in cinemas all over the country. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the film because the guy that actually plays you, Rory Kinnear,
didn't know anything about you before he took the role. And he's like, okay, I'm going to find out about this guy. I've got to say, he looks so much like you.
Well, there's a story there. Piers Ashworth, who wrote this movie, he actually gave me a call from Hollywood. And he called me up and he said, look, Dave, I've heard about you and I'm looking for a real feel-good story. And he said, I've read the books, I've watched your documentaries and I'd like to make a movie about your life, a biopic. And I said, well, normally when you make a biopic, you're dead, but I'm alive. And he said, can I come and see you? And I said, yeah. So he came over to Burnley and he met me. And we were chatting about it, and he said, well, who would you like to play you, Dave? And I thought to myself, well, you work with Tom Cruise a lot, and, you're doing the movies for him. Tom Cruise. And he just laughed. But when you look at Rory, I mean, Rory's wonderful. All joking apart, Rory is the most wonderful person in the world. And Rory Kinnear, he's the Tanner out of Bond, so he's in all the Bond movies. He's in tons of movies, and his father were very, very famous as well, Roy Kinnear. And Rory's won these Olivia Awards for being such a wonderful actor. And the first time I met him, I mean, he knocked on my door at home, come up to my house, and I opened the door, and there he is. He said, Dave, meet Dave. And I thought, you'll do for me.
So good.
He looks more like me than I do.
He does. And the movie's been received well wherever it's been. Yeah.
Yeah. It just people really have took to it. But I don't think it's just the movie. I think people just connect with it because there's so many other people out there that's in the same boat. We're all in the same boat together. And I don't know if you've seen It's a Wonderful Life, but a lot of people are connecting it with It's a Wonderful Life and the Full Monty, and the reviews today in all the newspapers in Australia are fantastic, and they've been really kind, and it's been really, really well accepted here by the film people, and we're very excited about it. And one thing that I'd really like to take away from Australia and New Zealand is that when people go, I'd love them to come out of the cinema after they've watched it and think, maybe they could be, maybe they could do something. They don't have to open a bank, but maybe they could be inspired to take that next move at work tomorrow morning. They can get that next job, maybe go for that pay rise, maybe start a little business, or maybe start a financial institution, or maybe start a group up, a Facebook group up where they all get together and they could maybe buy a block of energy and split the discount between themselves and get back to what we used to do, and we used to do it really well, where we run by the community to benefit the community. Yeah, no, I love that. And I've got to say, yes, you're spot on the money there. Watching the movie, it was very much like a Full Monty. It had that feel-good energy about it, which I really loved. So, absolutely, 100%. Now, music plays a very central theme. Yes, I love music. I love singing. Karaoke all the time. I'm terrible. I'm the worst singer ever, but I love having a go. I love going out with a group of pals and doing a bit of singing and having a pint and having the crack. It's just something I've done for a long time, and I'm just rubbish at it. That's all. But it don't matter. It's just having a go that matters. It's good though that you've gone from karaoke bars to stadium rockers, and it just embraces the lot. Yes. And Def Leppard are actually coming over to Britain to do a big tour very shortly, and I'm meeting them there in Britain, and we're hopefully this is top secret, so keep this between you and all the people. I won't tell anyone. Just for everybody watching the podcast, keep it to yourself. But there's people Def Leppard coming over to Britain again. I'm meeting up with them, and hopefully I'm going to get on stage with them and do something similar to what we did in the movie, so we'll get it to be proper. Oh, fantastic. And I've got to ask this. What's your favourite Def Leppard song? Oh, Pour Sugar on Me. It just has to be. They asked me that, and they said, what song would you like us to play? And I said, will you please do that? And they said, it'll be a pleasure. What was it like? Wonderful men. Yeah, because you got up on stage and sung with them, right? Yeah, well, we were singing. I was at the actual event, and we were singing there. But I'm actually going to get up on stage when they come to Britain, and we're going to have a chat on stage, and hopefully I'll belt out a couple of bars of "Pour Some Sugar on Me," and I'll do it badly, they'll do it brilliantly, and everybody will have a good laugh, and that'll be brilliant.
You're going to put some Def Leppard spandex on as well.
Oh, I'm going to get the jacket on with all the denim and the badges. Prop.
Fantastic. Well, look, Dave Fishwick, I really hope that everything goes well for the movie. It was a brilliant movie. I loved it. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Fantastic. Real pleasure. I've enjoyed talking to you, Shane, and stay in touch.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Dave.
All the very best. Thanks now.
Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Long Way to the Top. Hit plus or follow to subscribe to the podcast, and head over to Facebook at the Long Way to the Top podcast and give us a like. Keep on rocking, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Long Way to the Top.